Revealed sacred practices. 7 miraculous keys for divine healing of body, mind, and spirit. The sun rose over the quaint village of Hopewell, casting a golden hue on the weathered stones of St. Jude's Church. Inside, Sarah felt the stirring of something powerful, an energy that enveloped her as she clutched the ancient prayer guide she had found in the attic. The faded pages whispered secrets, promising divine healing through 7 sacred practices that would unlock a torrent of miracles. A shiver ran down her spine. This was no ordinary day. With each passing moment, Sarah's heart pounded with fervor as she envisioned wondrous transformations. She could almost see a shroud of light encircling her son Daniel, healing his fragile body and igniting the spark of life in his weary eyes. So many had come to know the community's heartache. The whispers of despair danced like shadows among them, but here was a ray of hope that could breathe life back into the very core of their faith. As she gathered her friends around, each one eager to join her in newfound devotion, Sarah could feel an electric current crackling in the air. The first sacred practice prayers drenched in gratitude brought tears to their eyes as they held hands, feeling the tangible warmth of Goddess' presence washing over them. The anguished cries from countless hearts merged into a symphony of hope, soaring higher than the steep hills that cradled their village. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Their voices harmonized, fueling the air with unyielding faith. With every prayer, the walls seemed to tremble, and a warmth enveloped the sanctuary, filling every corner with divine energy. The village, once divided in concern, now stood united, ready to embark on a journey to heal both body and spirit. Yet, as hopes began to rise, so did questions. Is faith alone enough? Sarah pondered, heart heavy with a growing struggle. She knew her husband questioned the efficacy of prayer. The tension simmered at home, with discussions stretched thin over the dinner table, oscillating between desperation and devotion. But then, as they delved deeper into sacred fasting, miraculous occurrences began to unfold. Stories of healing echoed through the village. One night, under a sky filled with glistening stars, Daniel awoke from a restless sleep, his pain easing into a gentle quietude. It was as if a gentle hand had laid upon him, washing away his struggles. However, amidst these tender moments, Sarah found herself facing a deeper mystery. Was it merely prayers that lifted her son from darkness? Or was there something more profound gently urging her to heed the crevices of spiritual power? A sudden knock echoed through her door one fateful evening, slicing through the sacred air she had cultivated. Sarah's heart raced as she opened the door, revealing an unexpected visitor with news that could shatter their fragile world yet again. As she stared into the eyes of uncertainty, she braced herself. Would her faith endure this next trial, or would shadows once more encroach upon the light? The door creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in a heavy overcoat. Sarah recognized the solemn face of Matthew, a friend from the village who had walked alongside their struggles. He stood there, breathless, his eyes darting with an urgency that sent a ripple of dread through Sarah's heart. "Sarah, you have to come quickly," he urged, his voice trembling. "It's Daniel." The air turned thick with tension as Sarah's heart sank. She felt an eruption of emotions, fears tangled with hope, prayer flooding her spirit as she barely managed to reply. "What has happened to my son? Please just come." Matthew gestured urgently, and without a second thought, Sarah grabbed her shawl and followed him into the chilling night. The cool air bit at her cheeks, but her mind raced solely to her child. As they hurried through the dimly lit streets, shadows flickered in every corner, echoes of anxiety filled the air. The village was alive with whispers, each shadow a reminder of the burdens they bore together. Sarah felt the presence of her friends rallying, a comforting assurance wrapping around her heart. They all wanted to believe in the sacred journey they had begun. Finally, they reached her home, where the dim light spilled from the open door like a beacon. Inside, she found her husband, Paul, pacing intensely, worry etched deeply on his face. His hands clenched tight. He looked up, seeking the answer to every parent's fear in her eyes. "Daniel, he's been having a seizure. It just one T-stop." The words tumbled out of Paul's mouth, weighted with despair. In that moment, it felt as if the world had frozen around them. But Sarah, even in fear, felt a quiet resolve swelling within her. "We must pray," she declared, her voice unwavering. She rushed toward Daniel's room, gathering her friends in a circle. Each one looked to her, eyes shimmering with the faith they had ignited together. "Lord, we invite your healing presence into this space," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil around her. "We stand united in trust, believing that your power can flow through us and bring Daniel peace." The familiar warmth of divine energy enveloped them as they held hands, hearts sinking in prayer, a melody of devotion that echoed through the walls. With every breath, they poured their fears and hopes toward heaven, trusting in the miraculous keys they were learning to wield. But amidst the prayers, a sense of doubt lingered like a shadow. With each passing moment, Sarah felt a flicker of uncertainty, questioning whether their faith could be strong enough this time. Would this trial test their spirits too deeply? Then, through a soft gasp, they heard it. A calm, gentle sound emerging from Daniel's room, the unmistakable sound of peace. They peered in, and there he lay, a serene smile gracing his lips, the heaviness of earlier replaced by a tranquil light. "Thank you, Lord," Sarah whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks, gratefulness mixed with relief. But still, a deeper question pulled at her heart. Was this truly the end of their struggle? Or was it merely the beginning of an even greater spiritual journey? The stillness rang with the music of unanswered wonders lingering just beneath the surface. As reflections of gratitude danced in their hearts, Sarah felt a stirring within her soul. There was more to learn, more mysteries to uncover. Together, they had stepped into the extraordinary. But what awaited them as they opened the door wider to grace? With faith lighting their path, she knew the journey had just begun. What revelation would await them in the next sacred practice? As dawn broke softly over the village, a gentle light began to spill into Daniel's room, warming the sides of his bed. Sarah watched her son, still resting peacefully, sensing a new breath of life about him. The tumult of the previous night began to fade into the background, like the echoes of distant thunder once a storm has passed. Paul, at her side, exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Do you think will he be all right now?" he whispered, his voice a mixture of hope and lingering worry. Feeling the warmth of the sun streaming through the window, Sarah dared to believe. "I feel it in my heart, Paul. God has touched him." But even as those words rang with assurance, doubt crept into her mind. Was this the healing they had prayed so fervently for, or just a momentary calm before another wave of trials? That morning, she gathered with Matthew and the others, their voices a supportive chorus, sharing the sweet relief of Daniel's recovery. Yet, as stories of faith and joy filled the air, Sarah sensed a deeper yearning within, an invitation to explore the divine practices that had the power to sustain their newfound peace. "Have any of you experienced more than just prayer during times of need?" she asked, her curiosity vibrant and pressing. Matthew leaned forward, the fervor in his eyes igniting a spark in the group. "I've heard of sacred practices, the ones that engage both heart and spirit. They don't just seek healing, they can help us grow. It's about drawing closer to the divine." The room resonated with intrigue as they exchanged thoughts on what those practices might entail. Moments of meditation, moments of gratitude, and connecting with God through silence emerged among their discussions. "What if we choose to explore them together?" Sarah suggested. "What if we treat these practices as keys? Keys to unlock deeper healing for our souls?" An enthusiastic agreement spread among her friends. It felt as if the air itself hummed with anticipation, each soul recognizing the potential woven in their unity. That evening, they gathered again, this time with the intent to embark on their first sacred practice together, a time of silent meditation. Settling down in a circle, Sarah closed her eyes and focused on her breath, feeling every inhale fill her with peace. She envisioned the divine light wrapping around them. Each heartbeat resonated with a prayerful rhythm, echoing the faith they'd nurtured the previous night. As the minutes melted away, Sarah felt a sudden clarity washing over her. Images began to dance behind her eyelids, pictures of love, connection, and an abundance of grace. Moments of doubt faded, replaced by a sense of belonging to something much greater than herself. Suddenly, she felt a gentle nudge in her heart, a whisper calling, "Seek the balance of spirit and body." In that moment, she understood. Healing wasn't a one-time occurrence. It was a path that required commitment and growth. When the time for their meditation finally concluded, the circle opened their eyes, faces glowing as if they had been touched by a divine hand. They shared what they had felt and experienced. Each revelation had its own unique richness, combining into a vibrant tapestry of healing and hope. As they departed for the night, Sarah felt invigorated. What had started as a desperate plea for Daniel's healing was revealing layers of spiritual depth she never imagined possible. There was something profound awaiting them, and she could feel the gentle tug of mysteries yet to be unveiled. What would the next sacred practice reveal? How many more keys did the divine hold, waiting for them to discover? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the skies in strokes of crimson and gold, the village seemed to vibrate with a sacred energy. Sarah and her companions gathered once more, warmth and excitement abounding. Tonight, they would embark on the second practice together, a time of gratitude, a key meant to unlock deeper connection and uplift their spirits. Seated in their familiar circle, Sarah held a small candle that flickered gently between them. It was a simple symbol, but it glowed like a beacon of hope. "Let us fill this space with thankfulness," she suggested, her voice softly reverberating in the cool night air. "Our hearts overflow with gratitude for the blessings we've witnessed. Let us take turns sharing what we are thankful for." Matthew smiled, his eyes bright with anticipation. "I'll start. I'm grateful for our community, for the love that binds us. It gives me strength." One by one, they offered their words, the atmosphere filling with warmth. "I cherish the love of my family," Paul added, emotion heavy in his voice. "I thank God for the healing He has bestowed on Daniel." A newcomer named Eliza shared, her eyes shimmering with tears of joy. As they spoke, a beautiful thread wove through their hearts, tightening their bond and illuminating the room with divine energy. Each shared gratitude acted like a raindrop falling onto fertile soil, nourishing the roots of their faith. As the sharing continued, Sarah felt an inexplicable joy swelling within her. Each expression of thankfulness was a fragrant offering to the divine. Suddenly, she was transported back to the moment Daniel had begun to stir, a memory colored with sanctity. An overwhelming realization dawned upon her. Gratitude wasn't simply acknowledgement. It was a form of prayer, a conduit to divine grace. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes and let her heart overflow with appreciation. "Lord, I thank you for every heartbeat, for each breath we take," she whispered, feeling the power of those words ripple through her. "Teach us to nourish our spirits with your love." In that peaceful silence, something shifted, a stillness sweetened by the presence of the divine. It was as if a soft hand brushed over them, calming their souls. As they concluded their time together, Sarah's heart felt freshly stirred, filled with newfound grace. "Let us carry this gratitude into our daily lives," she urged, excitement threading through her words. "Imagine the light we could spread if we needed nothing but the sweetness of appreciation." Paul nodded, enthusiasm sparkling in his eyes. "What if we started a gratitude journal? A way to capture every beautiful moment, and to remind us of God's goodness?" "Yes," Matthew chimed in, the idea igniting a flurry of excitement among the group. Every note could be a testimony of faith. As the evening stretched on, laughter and joy enveloped them. They talked of plans to gather again, eager to practice and explore further. But deep within, Sarah sensed that the mysteries were only beginning to unfold. She could feel the weight of the next practice whispering in her heart, a call towards something vast and transformative. What would the next sacred practice entail? Would they dare to journey into the depths of their souls and uncover the truths hidden there? Each step into the divine was as tantalizing as it was daunting. As the lantern swayed gently in the evening breeze, casting soft shadows on the walls of the cozy room, Sarah sensed the anticipation swirling like the flickering candlelight. The laughter of her friends gradually faded, replaced by a stillness that invited reflection. It was time to delve deeper. Sarah's heart quickened. The air felt thick with possibility, and she glanced around the circle, absorbing the eager expressions of her companions. "There's something I've been feeling," she began, her voice imbued with curiosity. "A whisper within me about our next practice. What if we explored forgiveness?" A hush fell over the group. Crickets chirped in the distance, and the flicker of the candle seemed to await their response. Matthew squinted thoughtfully. "Forgiveness? That's much harder than gratitude. Are we ready for that?" Paul shifted, his brow furrowing. "It's not easy to forgive, especially those who wronged us." "Exactly," Sarah interjected, her eyes sparkling with fervor. "But think about what forgiveness can free us from. Holding on to hurt weighs us down. When we forgive, we release the chains binding our spirits. We allow God's grace to flow freely." Eliza tilted her head, contemplating the beauty of Sarah's words. "I know I have a few people to forgive. It's like carrying stones in my heart. And imagine," Matthew added slowly, "if we let go and invited healing instead of hurt." He paused, the realization settling upon them all like a warm blanket. A collective silence lingered as they each wrestled with their thoughts. The enormity of the journey ahead began to dawn upon them, and with that, a gentle warmth of surrender filled the space. Sarah closed her eyes, envisioning a river flowing through each heart, washing away burdens and infusing them with light. "Let us do it together," she proposed, her tone soft yet resolute. "We can hold a session of prayer and reflection where we each face forgiving whatever is holding us back." Her heart raced, exhilarated by the possibilities. "But how do we start?" Paul questioned, his voice laced with curiosity. "Let us take a moment," Sarah encouraged, sensing an opportunity for a clear channel of divine inspiration. "Picture the person you want to forgive. Bring them before the Lord with all your pain and heaviness. Then, ask Him to help you let it go." Slowly, each friend closed their eyes. The world around them faded as they journeyed inward. The soft glow of that small candle flickered like a heartbeat, underscoring the silence shared between hearts. As minutes passed, the shift in energy became palpable. Eyes began to glisten with unspilled tears and breaths grew deeper, marked by the honesty of the moment. The atmosphere thickened with a divine presence, as if God Himself was gently cradling their pain, inviting them into His embrace. Finally, Sarah opened her eyes slowly to see her friends gazing back at her. "How did that feel?" she whispered, brushing away the emerging tears that had pooled in her eyes. "There's a weight, a lightness, too," Paul murmured, the sincerity evident in his voice. "I never knew it was possible to feel so free just by thinking about forgiveness," Eliza added, her heart light and filled with hope. Matthew nodded, his expression reflecting newfound strength. "We must continue. This practice could unlock something miraculous." As the conversation deepened, a divine expectance began to rise, uncharted territories waiting to be discovered ahead. The essence of forgiveness stirred their hearts toward healing in profound ways, suggesting that perhaps this was just the beginning of shedding their old selves, each transformation leading them closer to sacred wholeness. And with that thought, a gentle reminder flitted through Sarah's mind. What if forgiveness opened the door to understanding even deeper truths? What if it encouraged them to examine the core of their faith itself? The next practice whispered in the corners of her spirit, a challenge to explore the joys of acceptance and love that surpassed understanding. Would they dare to tread even further on this sacred path? The candlelight danced with soft fervor, illuminating the faces that were now alive with curiosity and shared intent. Sarah felt emboldened by the warmth of their connection. "What if we explored acceptance next?" she ventured, her heart swelling with hopeful anticipation. Matthew leaned forward, intrigued. "Acceptance? Huh?" That's definitely something we could all work on. His voice softened, as if contemplating the weight of the word. Accepting ourselves and others? Exactly. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining. Acceptance is the gentle embrace of reality. It's about acknowledging our circumstances and the people around us with love just as God does. It's not always easy, but what if accepting things as they are ultimately frees our spirits? Eliza's brow furrowed slightly. I think I struggle with that. I often wish for things to be different, for others to change. Paul chimed in, it feels like wanting to control everything around us. Doesn't it? Letting go of that is tough, right? Sarah exclaimed, her spirit igniting with passion. But acceptance isn't about resignation. It's about love and trust. It's believing that God's plan, even if we don't understand it, is for our good. Can we trust Him enough to embrace our lives, imperfections and all? Another silence spread through the circle as each of them mulled over her words, digging deep into their inner selves. The air around them hummed with the weight of their exploration. Let us reflect on our struggles, Matthew suggested gently. Think about a situation we find hard to accept. Maybe it's a personal challenge, a relationship issue, anything that eats away at our peace. Gradually, they all closed their eyes once more. In that sacred moment, they began to visualize their burdens. Sarah imagined her own difficulties, the endless cycle of worry over the unknown future and her fear of failure. Lord, she whispered internally, help me accept who I am in you and trust that your purpose is unfolding. Tears trickled down Eliza's cheeks as she saw the tensions in her family's relationship. Her heart softened by the realization that acceptance could bring healing. Paul's breaths deepened as he confronted his own doubts, a flicker of hope igniting within him, the knowledge that accepting himself fully was the key to growing outside of those insecurities. Minutes passed like soft waves lapping at the shore, and as they opened their eyes, their gazes met with a profound understanding. Acceptance is a kind of freedom, Paul said, his voice breaking into the stillness. A release of the need to control situations. Yes, and it leads us to deeper compassion, Eliza added, wiping her tears, a lightness spreading within her heart. Wherever we resist love, we can choose acceptance instead. Matthew looked intently around the circle, the realization dawning. Maybe acceptance is the gateway to true love. When we accept others, we see them through God's eyes. A new understanding illuminated their faces, brightened by revelations that stirred within. They were each being pulled into deeper truths, the sacred weave of their shared experience knitting them together in faith. Just then, Sarah felt a stirring in her spirit. What if acceptance brings us closer to radical love? A love that forgives, heals, and transforms? She mused, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. The thought hung in the air, almost palpable, like a prayer waiting to be answered. What could this radical love inspire in their lives? What divine transformations awaited them as they continued this journey together? As their collective curiosity grew, the promise of their next exploration began to unfold, a quest toward understanding what it truly meant to love without conditions. Would they be brave enough to embrace that challenge? As the embers of their discussion faded into a soft glow, Sarah found herself reflecting on the energy that had begun to fill the space. She felt a connection not just to her friends but also to the greater purpose that seemed to draw them together. Radical love, she repeated, letting the words linger. What does that even look like in our lives? Matthew took a deep breath, his eyes bright with inspiration. I think it's about loving people even when it's hard. When they hurt us or let us down, we choose to love, to forgive. Eliza nodded vigorously, sunlight breaking through the window, casting a golden hue around them. Yes, it's like how God loves us, flaws and all. If He can do that for us, shouldn't we strive for that same love towards others? Paul leaned back, a contemplative look on his face. But isn't that so challenging? Sometimes, it feels like we're just not equipped to love so unconditionally. It requires dropping our defenses, doesn't it? Exactly, Sarah responded. It demands a vulnerability that can be terrifying. But perhaps that's where healing begins. When we step out in faith, trusting God's heart, He guides us toward that radical love. They spoke in hushed tones, letting the quiet moments sit between their breaths, weighing their thoughts. Images of those who had hurt them flickered through their minds, like shadows they had carried too long. Maybe we could practice this love, Matthew suggested, a spark lighting in his eyes. If we set intentions to reach out to those people, even just to let them know they're in our hearts, it could be a start. Reaching out can be the first step, Eliza added, her voice soft yet determined. It could be a message, a prayer, a simple act of kindness. Just to show them they're not alone, to show ourselves that we can forgive. A community woven together by forgiveness and acceptance. Paul marveled, the idea twisting through his heart, bringing warmth in its wake. I love that thought. The flickering candle cast playful shadows against the walls, and each one reflected the shadows of their hearts, their imperfections melding into a larger picture. The vulnerability of the evening felt tangible, each person's courage woven into the fabric of their gathering. Let us not just talk about radical love but live it, Sarah said, her voice ringing with sincerity. What if we shared one way we're going to practice it before we meet again? We can hold each other accountable and rejoice in our progress. Excited murmurs filled the room. They tossed ideas around, momentarily losing themselves in a flurry of suggestions and inspirations. I've been meaning to reconnect with my old friend, the one I fell out with over that misunderstanding, Eliza admitted. Maybe I could send her a text, just to break the ice. And I'll reach out to my brother, Matthew added, his voice a mixture of nervousness and hope. I know he has been struggling, and I want him to know he can count on me. Paul contemplated for a moment. I'll write a letter to someone who inspired me, just to express how much their impact has mattered. It might even spark some love back and forth. A lightness filled the air around them, the glow from the candle flickering like the connections of their hearts, each idea merging into something beautiful. As they shared their intentions, Sarah's heart brimmed with gratitude. Yet, in the back of her mind, one question lingered: what would happen when they truly practiced unconditional love? Would it transform them as they hoped, or would the realities of their hearts resist the change? With an inexplicable yearning for the journey ahead, she whispered a silent prayer for strength. The mystery lingered, inviting them into uncertainty, yet promising divine encounters on the horizon. What profound revelations could await them in their collective pursuit of radical love? The next day felt thicker, charged with a tension that only anticipation could create. Sarah woke with an eagerness pulsing in her heart, like a melody both familiar and beautifully new. The shadows of uncertainty still clung to her thoughts, but as she showered and prepared for the day, she felt a shift, a gentle nudge from within. What if I reached out to my ex-colleague? She pondered. They had shared endless hours at work, but resentment had marred their final interactions. It's time to turn that bitterness into something beautiful, she whispered, her resolve hardening. With a quick breakfast consumed, she grabbed her phone, hesitating only for a moment. The message simply read, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. I hope you are well." She hit send, placing her phone down as if releasing a balloon into the sky. As the day unfolded, Matthew's words replayed in her mind. They had lingered with her long after their gathering, a gentle reminder of a love that required action. In the afternoon, she noticed her neighbor struggling with grocery bags. Without thinking, she rushed over, embracing the opportunity to act on that very love. "Let me help you with that," she smiled, a warmth spreading in her chest as they talked about their week, laughter and lightness replacing the silence that often surrounded them. Later, in a quiet moment of prayer, she lit a candle, the flame dancing cheerfully. She imagined each flicker as a prayer for those she hoped to connect with. Felt powerful. Could love, expressed in these small moments, build a bridge for healing? Meanwhile, Eliza found herself in a coffee shop, anxiously tapping her fingers over her phone. She had drafted the message to her old friend countless times before deciding it was time. "Hi, I miss our talks. Can we grab coffee soon?" As she hit send, relief washed over her, tinged with anticipation. Would her friend feel the same? Radical love manifests in targeted steps, she whispered to herself, recalling their discussion. Love had to be reached for and embraced, not merely hoped for in silence. Matthew's day began with a deep breath as he steeled himself for the call to his brother. They hadn't spoken in months. "You can do this," he urged himself, his heart racing. As the phone rang, he felt a wave of uncertainty crash over him. But then it connected. "Hey, it's me," he said, voice shaky yet carrying a melody of hope. What followed was a raw conversation filled with apologies and tears, unearthing emotions that had long been buried. It felt like breathing fresh air for the first time, their relationship uniting again through genuine vulnerability. Love moved in the spaces between their words, bridging the gap time had widened. Paul, sitting in his study, paused with a pen hovering over paper, contemplating the letter he had promised to write. As he let his fingers dance across the page, words spilled out. Gratitude flowed, along with memories of inspiration that had propelled him forward. He would drop it in the mail that afternoon, a small but significant act of love. That evening, the four of them gathered again. The air was electric, filled with the energy of their experiences. Perched on the edges of their seats, they began to share their stories, each one imbued with a spark of insight and growth. As they passed the candle around, flickering shadows swathed them in a sacred space, enveloping their hearts in a warm embrace. In that moment, Sarah realized that vulnerability and courage were truly transforming them. Yet, a new wave of questions surged through her mind, echoing the very essence of theirs. Where would this journey take them next? Would each act of love unfold new depths, or would they be tested in ways they had not yet imagined? With a sense of awe filling the room, they looked at one another, eyes shining with the promise of what was to come. The fragrant candle glowed brilliantly, whispering secrets of divine healing and unconditional love to those willing to dare. What awaited them in the uncharted waters ahead? The night deepened, cradling the four friends in its spiritual embrace. As the candlelight flickered, shadows danced around the room, creating a sanctuary of reflection and prayer. Each soul there could sense the presence of something greater, a divine current flowing between them, binding their hearts together. Sarah took a deep breath, her spirit soaring with possibility. "Let us not just share our stories. Let us share our hopes," she suggested, her voice soft yet filled with light. The others nodded, eager to explore the landscape of their yearning together. "I hope to rebuild bridges," Matthew confessed, his brow furrowing with a mix of hope and fear. "My brother and I have been apart for so long. I want to know him again." There was a collective warmth in the room, as if they were all leaning in closer, ready to buoy him up on this journey. Eliza chimed in, voice trembling with emotion. "I hope to rekindle friendship, to open my heart to the risk of vulnerability again." It was clear to everyone there the weight of those words. In the face of past hurts, she spoke her desire for connection. Paul, now penning his own feelings into spoken words, said, "I hope for healing. For myself and for those I've hurt. Love needs to flow freely, like a river, and be wild again." A rippling energy seemed to envelop them all as his heartfelt plea settled softly in the air. Then came Sarah's turn again. Her spirit felt lifted, the tension of uncertainty melting into something beautiful. "I hope we all can become manifestations of love in our daily lives. Let us take what we're learning here and carry it forward. Love isn't passive. It acts." She smiled, emboldened by the warmth radiating between them. "Action," Matthew echoed, his spirit ignited. "We need to weave every strand of this journey into our lives, to practice out loud." Each of them felt the urgency wash over them, pushing away the shadows of doubt that had once loomed so large as they shared their hopes. Each hope unearthed something deep within, not just for themselves, but for each other. The raw power of love infused the space, creating a sacred bond amidst their collective stories. With each shared intention, the atmosphere shifted. A collective sigh of relief floated out, suffusing the room with an unmistakable glow. Suddenly, a gust of wind rattled the open window, drawing their attention. The flame of the candle flickered wildly before steadying. It was as if the universe itself whispered an affirmation. "Look, the light is still here," Eliza said, pointing to the candle, her eyes wide. "Just like our hopes." They marveled at how small things could herald divine hope. A hush fell over them, pregnant with possibility. They were still, soaking in the moment, reflecting on the power of their gathered intentions. In that sacred silence, each of them knew, deep down, that the challenges awaiting them were covered by a mist of divine assurance, an insistence that miracles were possible, and there, in the sanctity of their circle, the question hung heavy in the air, weaving around them like a golden thread. What profound changes could this unity of hope spark in our lives? As the candle flickered once more, a new understanding was born. Perhaps, when they embraced vulnerability together, they would not only witness transformations in themselves but also in the world around them. What awaited them in the light of the dawn that would surely follow? Only time would unveil the unfolding tapestry of divine connection and revelation. As dawn broke over the village of Hopewell, a soft glow permeated the room where Sarah and her friends gathered, wrapping them in comfort and peace. Each face was illuminated by a shared understanding today was not just another day. It was a culmination of their journey through sacred practices, forgiveness, love, and acceptance. The air felt electric, filled with an anticipation that brought an undeniable warmth to their hearts. "I feel something stirring within me," Sarah began, her voice steady yet filled with reverence. "It's as if we are on the brink of a miraculous revelation." Matthew nodded, his eyes bright with the fire of faith. "We've walked through these sacred practices. From gratitude to forgiveness, our hearts have expanded. And now, it's time to embrace that expansion. Are we ready to explore the final key together?" They exchanged determined glances, and Paul spoke, a fierce light in his gaze. "What if this final practice is about embodying what we've learned? Living out radical love in every aspect of our lives?" Eliza's heart raced. "Yes. Let us find ways to manifest this love not just among ourselves but also in our community." As they formulated plans, Sarah felt an overwhelming swell of gratitude surge through her. "Let us step into our village today, seeking ways to spread the light we've found. Our task is to be beacons of hope." The flame of their candle flickered once, almost in agreement, as they each committed to share the essence of love they had unearthed through their shared journey. With purpose, they split up, ready to embrace the day as instruments of divine love and the village square. The early morning bustle was alive with neighbors greeting one another. Sarah approached a group of children playing. "Hey, do you want to help me brighten someone's day?" she asked, a smile stretching wide across her face. "Yeah," the children exclaimed, their youthful spirits sparkling with excitement. As they crafted little notes of encouragement, Sarah felt the sweet pang of joy swell within her. Each child's laughter echoed like a gentle reminder of innocence and hope, an affirmation of the divine purpose weaving through them all. Elsewhere, Paul found Mrs. Jennings, an elderly lady often seen alone. "Good morning, Mrs. Jennings," he greeted warmly. "I brought some fresh-baked goods. Would you join us for tea?" Her eyes lit up, a smile blooming across her face. "That would be lovely, dear." As they chatted, Paul felt the walls of separation dissolve. A connection, rich with warmth, grew between them, filling the air with the fragrance of acceptance and love. Matthew ventured to visit his brother. Taking a deep breath, he knocked eagerly on the door. When it opened, the apprehension faded. "It's been too long," he said, extending his hand. "Can we talk?" Moments later, they sat, the tension melting away as heartfelt words flowed between them. Each word reflected the forgiveness and acceptance they had learned, rekindling the bond they thought lost. Eliza found herself in the same coffee shop where she had felt so vulnerable just days before. Today, she approached a stranger who looked overwhelmed. "Hey, I'm just here to say that you're not alone. Just know someone cares," she said. The stranger's expression shifted, a glimmer of surprise and relief passing over her features. In that moment, Eliza realized how simple acts of love could have an immense impact. The day unfolded like petals of flowers opening toward the sun. Each of them encountered countless opportunities to spread their love beyond the confines of their individual struggles. They gathered in the evening under a sky painted with stars, the shared experiences of their day igniting their spirits. "What a day!" Sarah exclaimed, her heart buoyed by the connection they had fostered. We not only touched others but felt ourselves transformed. Love outwards fuels love inwards. The flickering candle from their gathering the previous night stood proudly in the middle of the circle. They each held hands, their hearts intertwined with a tapestry of gratitude. Let us close our eyes, Sarah encouraged, feeling the sacred energy envelop them. Let us reflect on how love has changed us today and how we can continue to carry it forward. As they prayed together, a profound stillness spread over the group. Sarah envisioned the strong threads of unity binding them, a beautifully woven fabric colored with emotions and sincerity. When their eyes opened, they looked at one another with deeper understanding. They no longer saw strangers in struggle. They saw companions on a journey filled with divine purpose. Each was a key to the other's healing, and together they stood strong. Before we finish, Matthew said, a gleam in his eye, let us commit to this path of love. Let us promise to regularly meet and encourage one another in our efforts to be vessels of radical love in our lives. Nods of agreement filled the circle, the warmth of their commitment igniting even deeper promises in their hearts. And let us not forget, Sarah added, her voice rising with fervor, to share our experiences with others. Let us encourage them to join this sacred journey. Each love note, every shared moment, every apology, and every act of kindness. As they rose, a sense of purpose drove them forward. The village buzzed with life, and the path before them glimmered with promise. They stepped into the embrace of the evening, ignited by the warmth of love shared and the potential awaiting them. And just as they took their first steps into this new chapter, a powerful promise surged through Sarah. They were wholeheartedly synchronized with divine purpose and the radiant love that would light their way. With the spirits alive within them and love leading the path, they ventured into the unknown, each heart a lantern shining brightly. This was more than a journey, it was a divine manifestation of healing, boldly stepping forth into the world, united and emboldened in grace. Now is your chance to be part of this journey too. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive faith stories that unlock the sacred. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this message of hope. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this ending. Your voice matters, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of love and healing. Let us spread the light together. Don't wait even one more second.